Welcome back to the Bazaar, I'm Inko, and let's talk about the new cards. The servers aren't live just yet, but the cards are up. I can look at them and give my feedback. It's not the old data mine anymore. I think I could be wrong. This match is what was in the screenshots, so I'm pretty sure these are the actual new cards as they will be once the servers are properly live. For those of you who don't know, you can load into the game, you just can't play during maintenance. So you can see a lot of the new stuff involving the current monetization and the new card packs right now. And let's start giving feedback on what exactly I think of this stuff. And at the end, I'll go into my own data and show off that I need to play a lot more Bazaar to be as good as I would like to at it, because holy shit, I've got like 1/5 of Preps hours, and admittedly I'm not a full-time streamer, but it makes me feel inferior. First though, let's talk about the new items. Getting started, we have the Steam Ladle, a small tool, 4-second cooldown, burn 3, that should match the now nerfed lighter. Actually, I think it has one more burn. This starts at silver. I think a silver lighter only deals 2 burn base. And when you freeze, this gains +3 burn for the fight. That just seems like a straight up good card. It works well on a matchbox board because it's just small and fast and burns. And if you have any freeze synergy, this feels like a good way to kill an opponent. We'll have to see how good it really is, but it doesn't feel terrible. Next up, we have a card that I absolutely cannot pronounce. I'm gonna call it the Luxury Charcoal Pit. It's an 8-second cooldown, burn equal to value, and when you sell a property, this gains 1 value. I know that scales up 1 value per tier. This seems really hard for it to be good to me. I think that's like playable, but I'm not sure if you'd ever use it because you wanted to. It might just be like, you put a rewards card on this and intend to sell it later, but it's good enough for now. I'd be surprised to see if this is actually good. 8 seconds is a long time, but if the value gets high enough, this is insane, right? It's not a property though, so you can't use balcony with it. You'd have to get it to like 200 burn the hard way. I don't really see this as being anything other than a filler item. Maybe I'm underestimating it. Oh, it is notably a tool, so it will show up at Orion just like the Steam Ladle, making Crook a lot less consistent. Probably needed to happen. Next up, we have the Cold Room, a medium property starting at bronze. It's an 8-second cooldown to freeze 1 item for 1 second. I assume that goes up with tiers. And then when you freeze, gain 3 regen for the fight. When your enemy uses an item, charge this 1 second. Oh, that got a lot better on the last line. At bronze, it seems like bait, but it's good for freeze synergies with stuff like the Steam Ladle. Freeze is generally strong. It seems relatively low investment. I can see this actually being solid. Notable with the new Pyg stuff is there's more regeneration scaling, right? This is a bronze regen item. We're about to talk about a silver regen item. These can just win early game fights the same way that Poison can right now. Cold Room might be playable, especially early game. I don't have a ton of hype for it, but when your enemy uses an item, charge 1 to freeze with no size restriction, definitely has room to be scary. Next up, we have the Hot Stones. They're small, no tags, 6-second cooldown, burn 3, gain 3 regen. I don't think that'll be soloing early fights though. It's a silver tier item that's essentially like equivalent to a Poison 3 item. This is like bronze Catfish with no synergies. Probably worse than that in the old patch. No, maybe Hot Stones just sucks and doesn't do anything. I want to believe the regen scaling is good and you can do something with it, but Hot Stone seems numerically bad. I hope I'm wrong though. Next up, we have the VIP Pass, 7-second haste adjacent properties for 1 second, and then really notably, when you use an adjacent property, increase its value and this item's value by 1. That doesn't say like for this combat or anything, so that's just kind of fucking crazy if it does what it says it does. And after the deed doing exactly what it said it did in the previous patch and selling for $1 million, I'm inclined to believe this does what it says it does. Seems very strong for Property Pig, which I'm thinking is going to be great in this patch anyway. Next up, we have the Snowmobile, a medium vehicle weapon. I think this is Pig's first vehicle. It's a 7-second cooldown to deal 20 damage and gains 10 damage for the fight when it goes off. I believe both of those numbers scale up when you upgrade it, not certain. When this gains haste, or when you freeze, charge this 2 seconds. So this is a worse Ballista that also has freeze synergy, and a character with not nearly as much haste. And I don't think if I'm playing like a freeze build, I'm going to be looking to use Snowmobile, right? Because if I'm using something like Cold Room, it's inherently pretty fast. It synergizes with Steam Ladle. These are both pretty fast. That synergizes with Matchbox. Snowmobile, I feel a bit lost about. I'm not sure what I'd want in this card. It kind of feels like pack filler. Sauna looked very good to my memory. Is it as good as I thought it was? Medium property, Sauna, 7-second cooldown, burn 4. When you burn, heal 10 and gain 1 regen for the fight. I believe that regen number scales as well. That's very scary, right? You throw it in a build with a Matchbox and a Steam Ladle and a bunch of fast shit to keep them going, and suddenly all of your burn is now healing you defensively and gaining you a regen. I feel like Sauna, Steam Ladle, Matchbox Pig is really going to steamroll some people in the early game. Next up, we have the Private Hot Springs. It's a large property, 6-second cooldown, burn 8, gain 8 regen. And the first time you fall below half health, each fight freeze all other items for 4 seconds. When you freeze, charge this 6 seconds. So when you drop below half health, you're going to charge this a lot of times. So this is going to freeze the whole board. If you're running it with like 7 small items, that'll be at least 7. So this will burn 8 times 7. It'll burn 56 and get 56 regen on its own at gold. And then it will also do it more for all your opponent shit too. And it buys you 4 seconds for the burns and regen to tick. And you can run it theoretically on a board with something like an icebreaker. I don't think every board wants Private Hot Springs, but I think you can make an absolutely sick board with the Private Hot Springs. Maybe it's bait, but there's a dream here and I appreciate the dream. Next up, we have the Aurora Dome, which is like insane, specifically with Cryo Sleeve and not useful much else. It's a medium property, 5-second cooldown to shield 10, and when any item gains freeze, your shield items get plus 10 shield for the fight. Cryo Sleeve is like built to combo with his item, but it's not a Pyg item. You can't reliably find it. And in a vacuum, without that Cryo Sleeve, it looks very weak on its own. And lastly, we have the Ice Luge. Is that how it's pronounced? It's a small 5-second cooldown item, freeze adjacent items, so your own items, for 1 second. It has 1 ammo, and when an adjacent item gains freeze, reduce its cooldown by 1 second for the fight. This scales up at Diamond to 2 seconds for the fight. So this seems absolutely horrifying. There are adjacency synergies you need to be concerned about, but the ability to just bottom out the cooldown on pretty much any item, like you put 1 gunpowder on this, you get it to Diamond, and suddenly it's going to freeze your stuff for 2 seconds, but permanently lower the cooldowns by 4, and we're talking about a post-Omnibok world where everything's cooldown is longer to begin with. This thing just seems kind of crazy to me. So there are some items here I'm hyped for: Steam Ladle, Sauna. I want to believe in Cold Room and the Private Hot Springs, but I really don't. Steam Ladle and Sauna, I think, have a very real part to play in early game boards, and I think VIP Pass and Ice Luge are just both crazy, and I'm really looking forward to playing Property Pig. When I cover my stats later in this video, we're going to explain why I won't be playing much Property Pig. I play too much Pig, man. Next up, we have the Mysteries of the Deep set for Vanessa. First up, we have the Submersible. It's a medium aquatic weapon, vehicle, and tech. 8-second cooldown, deal 24 damage, shield equal to this item's damage, which is all looking really familiar. It's a smaller but much worse submarine. However, if you have another vehicle, like the submarine, this item's cooldown is reduced by 50%. So it drops down to 4 seconds, and it's probably the same speed as submarine in a post-Bach world, right? It should be the same. But there's like not really any synergies that drive us towards wanting all these tags. Submarine doesn't really want a second buddy vehicle in most situations. It is lower values, like whatever you're using to scale the submarine probably isn't hitting Submersible 2, for instance, Shadowed Cloak. I don't really see the appeal of this. It feels like there's no small vehicle. Like maybe you play it with specifically Rowboat, and it has a place, but I'm not really sure, like, in the other vehicles, why you would want this vehicle on top of it. Then we have Diving Helmet, a medium aquatic tool, 6-second cooldown, shield 50. Adjacent items are aquatic. That's potentially very interesting. Namely, with like a shipwreck, you could get some multicast on some stuff that really shouldn't be having multicast. And it is a real cost to do that, right? You're giving up 2 item slots for it, what is like essentially just a useless item. But it isn't nothing. There are probably other synergies I'm not really thinking about, stuff like reducing cooldowns with Figurehead. But again, 2 item slots when you already have a Figurehead or a shipwreck on board is a big cost. I think there's a use for this. I don't think it's crazy, but I think it will hit boards and meaningfully improve your boards sometimes. Next up, we have the Dive Weights, a small aquatic tool, 7-second cooldown, haste 1 item for 1 second, scales up with ranks. It starts with 3 ammo. If both adjacent items are aquatic, reduces items cooldown by 50%, so down to 3.5, and it has multicast equal to its ammo. So you're really looking to get a lot more ammo on this. If you can get like a 1 gold gunpowder on it, then it'll be 5x multicast, it'll just haste your whole board, single-handedly enabling a pufferfish. What I'm getting at here is I really want to hold gunpowder on the new characters, because there are some really crazy gunpowder synergies coming in. This is probably the best haste enabler for Vanessa if you can hit the multicast on it, if you can like stack ammo here. If not, not so much. Next up, we have the biggest bait in the set. I really want to believe this thing's insane. I'm gonna throw a lot of builds trying to make it work. It is a large friend. I didn't know I had the friend tag. It is a large friend aquatic weapon, 30-second cooldown, slumbering primordial. You can just say Cthulhu, he's public domain. We all know this is Cthulhu. It deals 75 damage. When you poison, freeze, or burn, charge this 1 second and it gains 75 damage for the fight. From the data mines previously, I believe it scales up to charge this 2 seconds and this gains 150 damage for the fight, but that could be bad memory or it could just be no longer true. But assuming both the damage scaling and the charge scaling still happens, and at 1 second it really does need to scale at diamond, I'm going to assume that's still true. Essentially, you just want to slam this on a board with, I don't know, huge multicast dive weights. Because if this has like 10 multicast, and you have 6 other items with permanent haste, and you're already halfway to triggering Slumbering Primordial 4 seconds in, you know, there's a combo here. I'm pretty sure this shit's fucking broken, and I'll be trying to make it happen as soon as I possibly can. If it's not, it might also just be like the Timmy in me finally broke out. Spike is gone, he's dead on the side of the road, and the little Timmy in me just sees this card and my eyes light up, and I'm like, but I want to. I've always wanted Weatherglass to be good. Now Weatherglass, Slumbering Primordial, dive weights, it just builds itself. I have to do it. Anyway, moving on, we have the Mantis Shrimp, one of my favorite animals in the world. Small aquatic weapon friend, you're damn right he's a friend. He has a 9-second cooldown, he deals 20 damage, burn 2. Weirdly, he has 2 ammo, which like, I guess he has 2 hands? They don't break when he uses them. This is just my Mantis Shrimp stand coming to the defense of the card. I'm like, why does he have ammo? He a shrimp. What's he using up? Anyway, when you slow, this gains 10 damage and 1 burn for the fight. This is a slightly confusing card for me, right? This like wants to go in Lighthouse builds as sort of a finisher, right? It punches through some of the shield that's stacking up with their that sort of build. It adds a lot of burn. It seems like it has a home in Lighthouse builds, but I haven't really seen a ton of Lighthouse doing well in the previous meta. I don't know, maybe it's still good. I want to try Mantis Shrimp Lighthouse. I've been wanting to see more Lighthouse for a while. And speaking of, we have the Darkwater Anglerfish, medium friend aquatic, 7-second cooldown, burn 6. When you slow, charge this 1 second. Pufferfish is still charging 2 seconds on haste, I think. If that hasn't been changed, it wasn't in the patch notes, then this is just notably worse Pufferfish, but for burn, and specifically for like Lighthouse slow burn, that's good. Burn is inherently better, in my opinion. Slow is better than haste, because if you can do both, you're insane, and slow is equal value to haste, except it disrupts opponents in a big way, so I don't know. I feel like both builds wanted slow and haste to begin with. I feel like this is very, very strong, but at the same time, I feel like I'm exaggerating it and it's not actually gonna be that good. I want to believe in the Anglerfish and Mantis Shrimp, I'm just not quite seeing it. In that same build, using Weatherglass or dive weights to wake up Cthulhu, you have the Primordial Death Charge. It's here to wake up the Slumbering Primordial, get it? It has 1 ammo, 10-second cooldown, poison 4, burn 4, freeze 1 medium or small for 1 second, and this has +1 multicast for each other aquatic item you have. I believe all the numbers except for the multicast scale up when you get higher tiers. And I really like the idea of this, right? You slam it onto a board with like 7 other aquatic items, and that gives this 8 multicast. Suddenly you're poisoning for 32, burning for 32, freezing the shit out of their board. That's a huge amount of damage and disruption to come in at 10 seconds, and the meta should be slow enough for something like this to work, I hope. It also has very direct synergy with my favorite card in the set, so, you know, that too. Next up, you have Volcanic Vents. This is just a pretty straightforward card that scales really well if you can improve burn values. It is a medium aquatic item, 7-second cooldown, burn 1, multicast 3. You might be familiar with this, formerly known as a Soldering Iron, which I assume is now a 6-second cooldown, a 1-slot item for Dooley. However, the difference there is it needs to be adjacent to a friend and a tool to get multicast 3, which often takes up more than 2 slots on your board total. So this is almost directly analogous to Soldering Iron and Dooley. It's kind of the same card. And looking at this, I'm like, I don't know if this is good, but Soldering Iron's fucking insane, and this is almost as good, so it should be pretty good. It's just the burn one has me doubting it. Although on the flip side, I do believe that Soldering Iron has a lot more built-in synergy with the Dooley, but oh well. Next up, we have the Zoarkid. I have no idea if that's how it's pronounced. It's a small aquatic weapon friend. 7-second cooldown, deal 20 damage, haste 1 adjacent item for 1 second. When you burn, charge this 1 second. Because it only haste adjacent items, that just seems like it's going to perma-haste, you know, specifically whatever your burn item is. And yeah, it could be really, really good. You put the Zoarkid between the Volcanic Vents and the Darkwater Anglerfish, and they're essentially permanently hasted. That does something. It's hard to deny that. It seems like a decent enough card. I mean, usually permanently haste 2 items is going to take up more than 1 slot, right? So to me, this feels like a really, really strong haste item with the specific criteria of you must be in a burn build to use it. Seems pretty good. I don't think it's as tracked as dive weights, but it seems pretty good. Maybe I'm wrong about that though. Maybe I'm underestimating them. And lastly, we have the Yeti Crab. It's a small aquatic friend, 7-second cooldown, freeze one small item for 1 second, and I assume that scales with tier. But then the important thing, the passive, when you freeze, adjacent poison items gain +1 poison for the fight. And, you know, cool. How much freezing can Vanessa really reliably do? Well, I mean, that one, I guess. You put the Yeti Crab specifically next to the Primordial Depth Charge, and then when it goes off, every time it goes off, its poison ramps up by 1. But aside from that specific combo, like, generally speaking, your pufferfish or whatever, that build didn't freeze that often. There's some crazy disgusting high rolls with Yeti Crab, don't get me wrong. But in terms of general build usability, I think the Yeti Crab just rides down on top of the Primordial Depth Charge and together they wake up Cthulhu. I think that's what's happening. And I'm down for it. I want to wake up Cthulhu. This sounds incredibly fun to me. And while that concludes the card review portion of the video, there are some new systems in play. We have the daily challenge, weekly challenge stuff for the rewards track. It looks like all of these give the exact same value, so you're just rolling if you don't want to deal with a specific thing. And all of this looks reasonable, right? Buy 10 items that cost 10 or more, upgrade 4 items, use items 200 times. That sounds like it happens in like a couple of runs tops. And then over here for the weekly stuff, buy 200 items. You can do that in a week, gain 1600 max HP. I mean, if that includes leveling up, that's just a couple of runs, right? And star quality, enchant 45 items. That one's a big one, honestly. I think that's notably harder than these other two. I'm just gonna roll it because, you know, it's in the video. Heal 1500, who wants to run heal cards? It's fine, at some point I'll get a heal enchant I didn't want and we'll get there. And lastly, we have the career tracker page. A lot of the stats have been tracked the whole time and are showing up on this. Some haven't been and don't show up on this. I'm mostly gonna show off a little bit of my own play stuff to show you like where I am in my journey through the game. A lot of this stuff on the side isn't enabled yet. I can only look at career. The rest of this, not here yet. Looking forward to using in the future. I referred to myself as a filthy pig main many a time. It turns out to be canonically accurate. Vanessa's in second place, Dooley's in third, but it's a very close race. Because if we come down to the 10-win breakdown, you'll see Pyg ahead by a country mile. However, if you just come down to literally games played, it's pretty similar. I've said I'm more comfortable on Pyg, and that checks out. Because if we go over to my 10 wins percentage, Pyg is literally double my other 2 heroes. I have been so comfortable on Pyg in so many different metas, I just feel like I'm in control of the game and know what to do when I'm playing to scale in the late game, and I don't need to win early. I feel more comfortable on some dualies and some metas than I have on Vanessa, but honestly, in this next patch, even though I'm suspecting that Pyg's a menace, I'm going to start off by just playing an absolute shit ton of Vanessa and Dooley, because I need to play more of them. Specifically, if we just go to games played, I'm like 100 games down on Vanessa and Dooley. I need to fix that. In general, though, I haven't actually played that much. Like, I know some people look at 200 hours like, Jesus Christ, but 200 hours is not actually that much for the amount of time the Bazaar has been out. For a content creator, I feel like I haven't played that much. I'm pretty happy with my 10 win percent, like especially on Pyg. I think going 10 wins 30% of the time is probably something that like most people will see on their characters. I'm very happy with 61% on Pyg. I feel comfortable on him and the stats fucking reflect it. But I know I can do a lot better on Vanessa and Dooley. I want to play those characters more, get more comfortable on those characters. I want to see more shit like this. That's a really reassuring statistic. I've got about 200 hours logged in the game, 17 short. Played 269 games, earned 510 chests. And I can go specifically by hero here and get like the nice little overview like this, but it's just the top thing. My specific time played as Dooley, as Vanessa, and then here comes Pyg with 100 hours alone, more games than the two of them put together. I am truly the filthy Pyg main. And then there's a lot of other stats. It looks like diamond victories haven't been getting tracked, but the other ones have, which is kind of weird. Because like 2 days ago or something, I uploaded a diamond victory, right? So weird that that one wasn't getting tracked. I think that's only Pyg. If I go to select a hero and come back down, yeah, so that UI could use improvement because it wasn't clear that was showing only Pyg, since this graph stayed the same and showed everyone. Coming further down, I've defeated almost 2,000 players, almost 3,000 monsters, visited 12,000 counters, sold almost 23,000 things, dealt millions of damage, spent 80,000 gold, and my ghost has never killed anyone. Definitely tracking that stat for real, guys. There's also some other stats, though frankly I find them less interesting. Like, most of this is only important insofar as it contributes to like 10 win percentage, in my opinion. And stuff like days played is interesting if your characters have the same amount of plays, but what really matters is like days played per run average. Just in general, like, yeah, of course Pyg is crushing it. Pyg has more days played in a given run than these other two heroes. Even if your time played wasn't the same as mine, Pyg should be ahead if it's even split. Also, I wish this thing, like when I click one, I click Ghost Battles, I'm all the way at the bottom, it resets to the top. That really should save where in the scroll you are, and most of this bottom stuff really just hasn't been updated. Like, it hasn't been getting tracked. But yeah, I'm looking forward to stat tracking coming out. I'm looking forward to playing a lot more of the game in the next patch. I obviously hate the pay-to-win system. Everyone does. It's not going to stop me from supporting the game because I fucking love the game in spite of its bad monetization, but I am salty about it. I will give bad feedback about it, and I'll encourage everyone else to do the same. But yeah, I like the stat tracking. I think the new system is probably, unless it's built incredibly hostilely, it should be better for free-to-play players to be using the free battle pass as opposed to the old systems. It's just the free players not getting access to new cards. It's just the one massive sour note on the whole patch. But other than that, I'm thrilled about the way the new cards look. I like the stat tracking. I'm looking forward to playing more Bazaar, and I hope to see you in it soon. That'll be all for now. I'll see you in the next one.